All right, everyone. Welcome back into another NBA DFS video here. We got myself, Eric Paulzine, and then also Nick Marro dropped the W. Did anyone actually do that yesterday? Did anyone drop the W? I hope so. But Nick, what are you looking for at tonight's slate?
Yeah, so this is that play-in tournament, or not play-in tournament. I don't even know what the hell to call it. Mid-season tournament, where the
Yeah,
winners get 500 grand. So I don't know. I guess there's a little bit of incentive for teams not to rest guys. I don't know if that's gonna really hold true or what to expect at all. But as far as I'm concerned, it's a regular season slate. You
yeah.
really don't need to overthink it. But yeah, I like the size of the slate. We're either dealing with like these 2 or 3 game slates, which are obviously brutal because you're playing terrible plays, or the massive slates where even if you're playing a bunch of lineups, it's tough to really land on everything that is. So I think we're kind of in the sweet spot tonight.
Yeah, these are typically my favorite slates as well. But yeah, you mentioned the tournament. The only incentive they have is cash base, right? That's it. There's nothing else.
At least as far as I've seen a bunch of people proposing different ideas and stuff. I know
Mhm.
Juan was just tweeting about it, but yeah, I have no clue if there's anything beyond that. I know the courts are all going to look really funny. Like, I don't know. I know the Bulls court's red tonight. It's going to be kind of
Mhm.
an eyesore watching some of these games flipping through League Pass. But yeah, I mean, if it's a little bit more competitive, if guys are less likely to rest, then maybe it's for the best. But yeah, I'm
You're
taking it all with a grain of salt.
you're a Nets fan, right?
Hmm.
Do you remember when the Bucks did the classic court game and like Kyrie Irving was making a big stinker about it? Like he was like worried about or hurting himself, and it was like a cream colored court, and it's just
Oh yeah,
um
yeah.
like it's weird. Like we had that weird thing like stinker blow up, and now the courts are just blue, red, and stuff. I'm like, how is this gonna look terrible on TV? I don't know. It's just weird.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's gonna look bad. I'm trying to remember. There was this guy in the Rockets who used to be colorblind and like he couldn't shoot. What was his name? Damn it. He's
I
like a
don't know.
power forward who shot threes. Like, oh, I wish I could remember. It'd be a much better story. But yeah, whenever they were at home with the red courts, like he couldn't see, so his 3-point percentage went down dramatically. I
Yeah.
wonder if we have any weird nuances like that here. Obviously, not something we're factoring in, but I mean, yeah, man. Like, I don't know. It's definitely gimmicky.
You bring on when I played sports, like whenever it was like forecast, I just sucked for whatever reason it was. Like my eyes just could not see the football or baseball like good
Overcast,
enough.
yeah.
And so honestly, there could be something there with like honestly, if a player has a terrible night shooting, it's just they're thrown off the court. I'm not even joking. Like I think that'll be a real thing.
Yeah, I think of Boise State football too. They play on the
Yeah.
blue turf. It's kind of that vibe, so it should
Mhm.
be interesting.
But yeah, we'll pivot on into the news for the slate. I mean, that was part of the news for sure. We do have Jose asking a question. Jokic and Doncic, they are so high priced. Are they even playable? And as it sits right now, I did find it difficult to get to them. Maybe as the slate progresses, we'll get more news. What are your kind of initial thoughts there?
Yeah, I think with Kyrie coming back, it's tougher to get to Luca. I think he's more expensive on both sides as well. I'm actually finally moving a lot of my volume to DK tonight, mainly because I want to play two centers. I do like Jokic if he's going to stay Malone, but I
Mhm.
agree he's very difficult to get to. It's probably easier to build balance tonight unless we get more value. We have some value, but it's tough to trust. So yeah, this is not a night where I think any of the studs are going to be all that popular.
I agree. And then just looking at the injury news that we got, I think the biggest one right now was SGA being ruled out. So we'll just take a quick peek at the Thunder. The issue with that is all the pricing. That news came out before, so all the pricing is juiced up. Is it too juiced up? Is my question. If not, who are you looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I already liked some of these guys, even with SGA in. Like Jalen
Mhm.
Williams is a player, Jalen. I know the other
Yep.
one's back tonight. I've been playing a lot of him. It's gone well some nights, not so well on others. But I'm going to be getting to him, and I think if there is one piece of value that's going to be chalky, it's probably going to be Isaiah Joe on both sides. Not a play I'm crazy about, but at the same time,
Yeah.
we're kind of scraping for value here. So I don't mind him. Obviously, Giddy gets a nice boost, but he is priced up, and then I know some folks are going to want to get a Holmgren. Yeah, I could see it. Definitely more of a boom bust play. I think for me, it's going to be a lot of Jalen Williams, maybe some Isaiah Joe, just as a chalky value piece, and Giddy
Are
too.
we are we sure it's Jay or Isaiah Joe this year? Because Carson Wallace has been the one getting the minutes, and he's not pulling in any ownership, and they're both. He's actually projected to get more minutes.
Yeah, so it's tricky. I mean, I would rather play Carson Wallace under the
Hmm.
assumption that he's starting, but at the same time, I think they use Joe like on the wing as well. I
Hmm.
think he's small forward eligible on DK, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But I think that is a product of him actually being more of a swing player, like positionless basketball is what we're going to
Yeah.
see a lot here. Like we're seeing with the Nets when Dinwiddie's out, etc.
Hmm.
So yeah, I do like Joe if he starts, but I do think that's a very logical pivot. And we saw just last night. I know we both had a lot of Hawkins chalk, but
Hmm.
Dyson and your boy Matt Ryan off the bench are really sharp
Yes.
pivots. So it kind of feels like a similar situation here. If
Yeah.
everyone's going to Joe, maybe mixing some Wallace into tournament lineups, and yeah, good way to get different.
Which just touch on last night for this night as well. You mentioned like probably going max with 4 players, which was spot on. Like I think if you try to fit 5 or 6 of them, you were very disappointed. Where if you fit in kind of the 2 clear ones yesterday, where it was McCollum, J Val, and then you're mixing and matching probably Dyson Daniels or Hawkins, and then maybe Matt Ryan or Larry Nance. And so that could very well be the same situation for the Thunder, where it's probably like we're looking at Jalen Williams. FanDuel, you're probably looking at Giddy, and then like, are we deciding between Holmgren, Joe, Wallace? It kind of feels like that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And yeah, I will say last night I had way too much Hawkins for what it's worth. But yeah, so I'm a little bit afraid to go back to Joe. It feels like a very similar play. And the thing with Joe is he's not the shooter that Hawkins is at all. So, I mean, there is a low floor there if he's going to
Mm-hmm.
be chalk. But I was a little bit surprised. Like, I think he's around 30-ish% on each
Yep.
site right now.
Yep.
So it's not like he's like ridiculous chalk or anything like that. So I don't mind getting to some.
Yeah, but right now, for especially for FanDuel, we have Wallace projected at 0% ownership,
That's
and
wild.
yeah, so it's not like he's going to break the slate. Like Joe probably has the biggest chance of breaking the slate, but still, that's what's crazy to me. That's what stood out. Other injury news that we have. I mean, Brooklyn Nets. We are expecting Spencer Dinwiddie back, so let's just kind of touch on that. With Dinwiddie probably back, is everyone correctly priced now, or are they too high priced, or is it just we don't know what to expect from these players?
Yeah, I mean, they've been having these like really flat rotations. Like we're seeing guys like Armani Brooks get in, and if they get hot, they're getting extra minutes. Chuck Vaughn, he's pretty loose with his rotations right now. I
Yeah.
will say, I think all the starters are fine. Like if you're getting shares of Royce O'Neal or Finney Smith is like a last man in, they're okay. Mikal Bridges, I actually like on both sides, pretty low owned. I think he's going to continue to produce better than he has so far this season. And then Cam Thomas, 7,200. He's kind of similar to like a Zach LaVine for me today. They're playing against each other, and Cam is just much lower owned. So very scoring dependent player, very low floor, but also a very high ceiling. And I don't really rate Chicago's defense all that highly. So this is one of the games I'm going to be targeting. But I will say there's no like major pricing discrepancies on the Nets.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could really play in a ton of lineups and feel great about. They're all about where they should be, but they do have ceilings they're capable of. So
Yeah, they're not too egregiously high for sure. And then I do think the Portland kind of situation is interesting. I would say because we did get news that Scoot Henderson is going to be out now. Sure, Scoot Henderson really hasn't been moving the needle too much in terms of DFS production. He's kind of been bad, but now we are looking at extreme chalk Malcolm Brogdon, and I'm curious. We do have him projected to get right around 33 minutes. So I want to preface this like, if he does get 33 minutes, he should be chalk. But we don't know for sure if he's going to get minutes. What do you think of his minutes? Are they going to be 33, or are they still going to limit his minutes?
I mean, I think he'll be floating around 30. So if he doesn't get to 33, he should be close. It's projected he's going to start here. He's a guy I've been playing even off the bench, albeit a little bit cheaper on both sides. But as far as like consistency goes this season, he's been one of the more consistent fantasy producers, and that's tough to find early in the season. So I do like him here. I think he's one of the better pieces of chalk on both sides. If there's something I'm going to eat, especially in like cash type formats, that's definitely a player you're going to probably want to be on. And I will say this too: this matchup with Memphis in years past. Probably one you'd be a little bit afraid of. These are two of the worst teams in the NBA right now, so this should be a competitive game. You're getting a little late night hammer there too, so it's a funner sweat when you can climb the leaderboard instead of just watching lineups drop. But again, there's really no math to that. But I do like Brogdon a lot here. There's definitely other pieces from this game we'll be considering as well.
Yeah, I don't really want to butcher his name because I haven't heard it yet, but
I think it's Kamara, like Alvin
Is
Kamara.
I'm
not 100% sure. But
okay, we'll go with that for now. That I don't even know if that's how we say Alvin Kamara's name because he's one that went back with that. But anyways, he's pulling in a little bit of ownership. He might actually be a decent kind of value option for us if we're trying to open up some. He's about 26 for projected minutes, 20% owned, and then 11% owned on FanDuel. Is he someone that you're looking at all? Maybe if you end up on him price wise.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of that last guy in. I do think he'll play probably 25 to 30 minutes here. Not a guy who shoots the ball a ton, at least not yet. I mean, he seems pretty talented from what I've seen, pretty good at everything. I like his size. I like how aggressive he is. And then you're getting extra points for the blocks and steals on FanDuel. Does show that he's going to be involved defensively as well. So honestly, we're kind of lacking value, not because guys aren't out, but because the prices were pre-adjusted because we had that news early. I do think getting to him makes some sense. Just kind of dampen expectations, I'd say. Very talented player, but we haven't seen a huge ceiling out of him yet. But again, there's not a ton of great value on the slate as things stand. He's definitely someone I'll be mixing in for sure.
Yeah, and we did get just going back to Malcolm Brogdon real quick, we did get a question about it, like who else would they play? I've been thinking that literally the whole season. Like, why are they not playing him more? And they just haven't been. So they clearly don't want to give him minutes. And also last year and the year prior, he did have some injury concerns. Boston didn't want to give him minutes. And so maybe that's partially due to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of a vet on that team. I don't know if they plan on keeping him or maybe shipping him to a contender at the deadline because they could probably get a lot back for him even in an expiring year. The one play I think, and this is kind of a reach, but Skylar Mays, watched him play a little bit at LSU. He's been terrible this year, but he's a guard that maybe could slide into more minutes. For me, Brogdon, even if he's only playing 30, I think he gets value. So. Mays is like a really risky dart. I would much rather get to Brogdon, and I'm sure we're going to talk about Shadion Sharp in a little bit. He looks really solid here, even with the price increase.
And just a little tidbit here. This is a little fluff, but the ultimate backfire for the Bucks trade it's already Boston got Drew Holiday, but it'd be Miami then getting Malcolm Brogdon. That would just be like the all-time backfire.
I know. I remember back when the Bucks didn't they choose Bledsoe over Brogdon or
no? So
they chose Brogdon over. I don't know. I remember
that was the optics of it, but Brogdon quietly was like, I don't want to play Milwaukee anymore. I want to go elsewhere, and so that's really what happened there. So they went and got Bledsoe. But yeah, looking at it, any other injury news that you want to note? I don't see much unless I'm missing something.
I mean, it seems like Jared Allen's going to be back tonight. Darius Garland's going to be back. I think RJ Barrett's still questionable. That's one I guess we'll have to keep an eye on. I'm leaning he plays. I'd be surprised if he didn't go here. I think he's healthy. But really, that's it. We didn't talk about Nick Claxton. He's still out for the Nets. That does boost Simmons' upside. But again, that's something that's priced in on both sites. That's not really something we can take advantage of. So I guess Barrett's really the only piece we're really waiting on.
Yeah, and just – I have Cleveland pulled up. It's Jared Allen's minutes. Are they capped today? Because we're showing that they are, and I'm guessing that's why Evan Mobley's still kind of pulling in as a chalk option. And then Darius Garland, probably correctly priced. But, yeah, I don't know if I missed that news on Jared Allen. Let me take a peek, actually.
I know we went through shoot-around as a Garland, and that's why I'm kind of considering them both in. I don't know if it's official yet, but when they go through shoot-around healthy without issue, usually that means they play.
Yeah, that might be an interesting spot. I mean, only 24 minutes, 23. That's low. But we'll go ahead and move on to the guards here. And we do have Jose asking a question about Gary Payton. I'll just try to pull up his ownership here real quick for you. Yeah, he's only getting 6 and 4% there. All the guys in my lineup are also colorblind, apparently. That's the new excuse. I love it.
That's a good one. I'm going to try to... Well, it was Ryan Anderson. That's the player. Ryan Anderson used to play power forward. He was on the Suns, the Rockets, a few other teams. But I remember there was one court he couldn't shoot on. It might have been Houston, and he played there as a visitor, and he just couldn't make shots. But yeah, I'm glad that name came back to me.
That's funny. Yeah, you see those tweets where it's like name a random player. That's
yeah. That's deep in my head somewhere.
Yes. But looking at the guards here, so Luka's pulling in as the best play. The question on the slate is going to be whether or not we can afford to pay for him, and then the second being like whether we should. I think that's just a process of the slate, kind of like we had last night, where as the slate went on, we were pretty easily able to fit in Embiid. Is that your thoughts there with Luka tonight?
Yeah, it's tough to get to him. I mean, the price came up and Kyrie's back, so there's two checks going against him. At the same time, that's going to drive his ownership down. So there's
Mhm.
merit to getting him in tournaments. But for me, I mean, 13K on DK, 12.5 on FanDuel, by far the most expensive player on both sides.
Yeah.
So tough for me to get to him today. It's not the
But
best matchup either with Denver.
we look at the rest of the plays here, and it doesn't seem like we have that many like stud plays. Like Curry, probably properly priced. Mitchell, maybe a little bit overpriced with Garland back. Halliburton, still probably a little bit overpriced. And so we keep going down the list, and it seems like Sharp is the clear cut play. But then you have Josh Giddey, maybe Tyler Hero, Malcolm Brogdon's the clear cut play as well. Is this a slate where we're probably just eating the chalk at the guard position?
I'm going to eat a lot of Brogdon chalk. I do like Sharp as well. You could play him at forward on both sides, though, so I
Mm-hmm.
think that opens up another guard spot. I think Desmond Bane's underpriced on FanDuel, 8,100 for shooting
Yeah.
guard. He's very popular over there. But yeah, I mentioned before, Levine and Bridges are guys I'm going to be looking at. Bridges pretty low owned with plenty of upside, but yeah, I'm with you, man. I think the chalk here is better than it has been on most slates. Marcus Smart is a guy I was thinking would be low owned, but he's not. His price came
Yeah.
down on both sides. I do like him here. He's actually been really effective running that offense with Morant still out. And then Clay's price on FanDuel, 5,700. But all these guys I'm listing, they're drawing ownership, and it's for a
Mm-hmm.
reason. I will say this, though. Giddy, he is priced up with SGA out. But in the past, whenever SGA was out, you would see Giddy like 60, 70% owned. Maybe there's less correction here than there should be. We kind
Yeah.
of saw this the other day with TJ McConnell. It's like historically with Halliburton out, that's a guy we get to. It feels like the field got sharper on it, but at the same time, I mean, it's like an overcorrection. So maybe
Yeah.
Giddy isn't as popular as he should be, even with the price increase.
Yeah, and you look at FanDuel where he's a little bit cheaper. At 17%,
Especially on FanDuel, yeah.
it seems like it should be double to me. So
Yeah,
that's a
I'm with
weird
you.
one. We did just get news that RJ Barrett is out, so we'll go ahead and switch back into the news part of this. So, looking at
Yeah.
it with RJ Barrett, that's going to open up a bunch of shot attempts. And so, for me, my instant reaction, and we can still stay with the guards, I guess, is that Jalen Brunson now on FanDuel is going to be one of the better plays where he's a little bit cheaper there. DraftKings, he might still be a little bit too high, but we saw him get like a few more shot attempts in that game. Is there anyone else that you would potentially be pivoting to for the Knicks now with that news, or is it's going to be spread out kind of evenly?
Yeah, I will say I think Josh Hart's probably going to get the start at the
Mm-hmm.
three. His price is up. He's okay as value. Not a guy who really shoots the ball on that much. Should increase the usage for Brunson, like you said, but also Randall. And I do remember the other night with Barrett out for some reason, they played a ton of Isaiah Hartenstein. He actually had a
Yeah.
massive game. And against a big team like Milwaukee, it wouldn't shock me to see him on the floor with Robinson at times, with Randall, obviously. So maybe as a punt in large field tournaments. I know it's not like a direct correlation, but I think he's a guy who's going to see a few extra minutes, even though he plays a different position.
Yeah. And then just one tournament flyer. I like him, and we'll see if the data updates. Is Dante DiVincenzo. He was actually someone in a lot of my best ball drafts. I ended up on him at the end of it just because when he does get minutes, he produces. He's not going to dominate, but
Yeah.
he's can get 20, 25. So
And he
not
was in
too
foul
terrible.
trouble bad, I think, that last game with Barrett out, which kind of led to the extra minutes for Hartenstein, maybe. So
Yeah.
I think he picked up 3 fouls in like 2 minutes, which is not something you usually
Okay.
see out of a guard. So
Yeah.
I do like him here a lot.
Yeah, he had 7 shot attempts. He still had 30 minutes in that game. It was a low scoring game. So
Yeah.
this is should, I guess, revenge game if you believe in that. I mean, it's a year removed, so we don't really care about that. But
Yeah.
maybe familiarity playing there. Not terrible. So
No, I'm with you. There's definitely some value with the Knicks, but yeah, it's kind of one of those mix and match spots. Like I don't mind Hart, I don't mind
yeah,
DiVincenzo, I don't mind Hartenstein. Quickly's another guy. If he gets hot, he'll get extra minutes.
yeah,
You see Grimes get hot, which is rare, but it happens. So I don't want like 3 or 4 of these Knicks in lineups. Probably 1 or 2 max as
yeah.
far as the value guys go. But yeah, I imagine 1 or 2 of them is going to 6x pretty easily.
And then just getting back into the guards here. So looking at the value here, so DK value is showing Beasley for the Bucks being as the best value. I don't exactly disagree, but also I feel like there's going to be. I don't disagree that's a decent value play, but I think there's going to be better value. What do you agree
Yeah,
with
like my
it? Like,
first thought is no, but then it's like we got to trust the model, and usually the model's more correct than I am.
yeah.
So I don't know. He's put up a couple solid games. If he's going to be 1% owned, he's someone I could certainly see mixing in. So I
Mhm.
wouldn't say he's the best value play, but I think at his ownership, he's very appealing as a tournament option.
Yeah. And then we did have a question. Model update for RJ Barrett. It will here. I'll probably refresh it at like on the 10 when it gets to it's 06 right now. I'll probably refresh it at 10. So just as an FYI. FanDuel value. Let's see. Same thing.
Sharp's up there. He's expensive, which
Yeah.
is telling. Usually, when you see guys in the mid to high price range that are popping his value, they're very, very good plays. So Sharp's up there, Brogdon's up there.
So
Clay Thomas too.
So Sharp, he's questionable, but he's probable.
He's gonna go, I think.
Yeah. Is he is he a fade in any like chance? Like if you're making, I don't know how many builds you make, but let's say you make 3 builds per night. Would you fade him in one of them or no?
Yeah, maybe one, maybe two. Like again, he's a guy who needs to score a lot to really exceed that value. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
like him. I think like in my first build, I'd have him in. But
Yeah.
to your point, I mean, he's pretty popular on a
Mhm.
slate where not a lot of guys are all that popular. So there's definitely merit to getting away from him. But yeah, I mean, I'll have more of him than I won't. But it's not
Yeah.
a lock or anything by any
Yeah.
means. So.
Yeah. I bring that up because obviously last game he had more of a ceiling game, and now
I'm not expecting 50 fantasy points. I'm expecting maybe 40, which is value at his price. But yeah, if you're chasing that 50, then don't be too disappointed if he doesn't get there.
we just had some kind words come in the chat, pretty much just saying we're the best, and we appreciate that. Yeah, that's nice. We're going to go ahead and switch up into the forwards here, guys. Again, if you have any questions, make sure to get those in. So let me actually refresh this on my end. I don't want RJ Barrett to be pulled in at all. Yeah, and I'm sure he is if it's refreshed. Let's see here. Doesn't seem to be just yet.
He was just announced the starter officially too, so we did know that, which is good.
So yeah, we'll do that again periodically throughout this video. But looking at the best forward plays, again, Sharp's popping up there. Zaire Williams, he's popping up in again. It seems like the whole season he's been popping up in there. And for the most part, Zaire Williams has actually been a decent value play. Is he someone that you're looking at, or is he someone like maybe if you close out your build, you end up on him? What are your thoughts there with him?
Yeah, he's kind of that guy. Like if he's one of my last guys in, I'm pretty happy to land on him. Again, just a wide range of outcomes. He's cheap enough that his ceiling is very appealing in tournaments, but at the same time, I mean, locking in him into a lineup, like if he finishes with single digits, I'm not surprised either. So I do like Zaire Williams. He'll probably be in like half my builds. I'm playing single entry on both sides tonight. Like I said, I'm moving more volume over to DK because I really want to play 2 centers, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, I like him on both sides as value, and he's priced the same as Josh Hart, who I imagine gets pretty popular. I think Williams is almost an identical play, and he'll probably be lower owned.
Yeah, I like Grant Williams a little bit more for sure.
Or Grant or Zaire?
Sorry, I thought you were saying you'd like Grant Williams.
Oh, I was talking about Zaire. No. Grant Williams was.
Wait, so who? No. Who were you saying he was better than just now?
Maybe Josh Hart, who's going to be more popular. I said they're very similar plays.
Gotcha. No, I agree. I know. I was looking at Grant Williams at the same price tag and same ownership. I'm like, I kind of like that one better.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on him, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, with Kyrie out, he's been shooting more. He's a guy who kind of hangs on the corner and shoots threes.
Yeah.
But he's been hot and surprisingly hot. So I don't know how great I feel about him as his price continues to climb. Like there were slates earlier in the year where he was near mid price and he was really, really good value. But with Kyrie back, I think that is going to cut into his usage. So I don't know. Maybe I end up with him in a lineup or two. But yeah, not something I'm prioritizing at all.
I mean, to your point, those 3 players are all like right there. So maybe just a lower ownership type thing, or whichever one the model likes more. We do have DiVincenzo right there as well, who I personally think is pretty good. And then Kamara right there as well, who we already kind of mentioned as a good value. And the data's a green as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like I feel amazing about any of these guys, but I will say there's more value in these forward spots that we're talking about than maybe the guards where we're pretty iffy on a lot of things. And
Yeah.
there's some really good centers tonight, but they're kind of all in the mid to upper range. So I think where you're going to find value tonight is this forward spot. You're probably going to have to mix and match a little
Yeah.
bit, but there's a lot of good options here.
I agree for sure. And then you mentioned Klay Thompson as a pretty good value for FanDuel.
Mhm.
He's pulling in about 20% projected ownership. That's probably correct. Stru's pulling in about 12, probably correct. What about Julius Randle though? He's 7.8 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that feels a little bit too cheap. I mean, on paper, not the best matchup for him, but if he's going to see a little bit of extra usage with Randall out, I do like that. I will say the other night he had a pretty good game. It's weird when he's on the floor with Robinson. Some nights it's like Robinson says, "Okay, Julius, you can have all the rebounds." Other nights they like go the other way. So I
Yeah.
don't know if he's having a better rebounding night. That certainly ups his upside. I don't know what to make of that. Like again, this is just me watching the games. But yeah, I do like Julius Randle here. Really like the price on FanDuel. But I do imagine that ownership climbs over 20%. I think I have it only 19 on the last refresh I did
Yeah.
on FanDuel. But yeah, damn good play for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Let's see here. And he's just someone that he really hasn't had like dominant games
Mhm.
just yet. Like
You
last
know he's
season.
got it in him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then just sorting by OF index here, he is the second best play on the slate just in general. So we got that. Jimmy Butler, then Jaren Jackson, DeMar DeRozan. I kind of feel like I can skip over those guys. Like I'd rather go with Jalen Williams, even Isaiah Joe as a value. I'd rather go with. So I
Cool.
think I'm probably paying down tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned Bridges. I'll probably get some Simmons. I think
Yeah.
nobody's going to want to play him tonight after the dud he put up last
Hmm.
time. And that's usually the time to jump on. Lou Dort, I don't think we talked about. He's very popular on FanDuel, not very
Yeah.
much on DK. And he's a guy, again, he's a defensive player, not really there to be shooting the ball. But with SGA out, we have seen ceiling games out of him. I don't
Mhm.
mind him. I think he's over-owned on FanDuel, though, so he's
Yeah.
more of like a low-risk cash type play. Um, I don't know. I keep wanting the ceiling game out of Jeremy Grant, and maybe we get it tonight. I don't know. I'll probably mix him in, but again, another guy who's probably a little bit higher owned than he should be. So I'm with you on Randall. Really like him. Love Sharp. And then
Dang, that Grant ownership. That's shocking, honestly.
who? Oh,
Yeah.
Jeremy Grant. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think people see like the on-court, off-court numbers. Like whenever he's getting extra usage, no Simons, obviously now
Hmm.
no Scoot. He is a guy who could facilitate a little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like he's moody. I almost feel like some nights he's really locked in and he's going
Right.
off. Other nights he's just like, I'm not really gonna try.
He,
So
he's kind of like Tobias Harris to me, where he's probably is good, but he also thinks he's probably a little bit better than he actually
yeah,
is.
yeah, that's a good
uh,
comparison.
yeah. So we got a question: is Randall worth a play at his low ownership on DraftKings? I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, but also just keep an eye, and if you are a member, refresh the model. I do imagine that ownership climbs a bit. But yeah, I think he's a good play both sites. Obviously, not the best matchup with Giannis and Lopez in that front court, but yeah, he looks pretty good. And Randall's a guy who's usually better first half of the season. We've seen him kind of get tired throughout the year and then break down in the playoffs. So
Well,
I like Randall for these first couple months.
it seems like he loses interest in the middle of the season, and then
Yeah, I feel like his body just breaks down too.
yeah,
It's like, yeah, it's sad, but yeah, I
makes
don't know.
sense.
I like him here.
Um, yeah, I don't think there's anyone too much noteworthy. I
Yeah, let me
was
see.
wondering. Jaime Jaquez started last game. I almost played him in that slate, but it was like a 13 game slate, so there's no need to. Obviously, that doesn't matter tonight, but someone I keep on the watch list for when he starts again.
Yeah, no, he's worth keeping an eye on. I do think Aaron Gordon's going a little bit overlooked.
Yeah.
That Denver Dallas game should be competitive. I mean, some
What?
people are going to want to play Jokic. He's very tough to get to. I think Jamal Murray's going to be popular. We didn't really talk about him at guard, but
Yeah.
Gordon does have these outlier games where he somehow has like 12 rebounds and 28 points. And like, it's not something you can count on. But at low ownership, he's a guy I'll be mixing in.
Yeah, I mean both those guys, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. I feel like
Mhm.
they're both kind of worth a look a little bit, but same thing with Murray, where they're probably all a little bit too cheap. You just can't really predict which one's
Yeah,
going to
which
go up.
one's going to be the one tonight? But I think they're all viable.
I did want to get your thoughts on Chet Holmgren as a power forward option on DraftKings because he's at 7.6 and seemingly too cheap. And he is someone, if you look at like the per 36 production with SGA off the court, he's actually someone that does benefit. It was Josh Giddey, Jalen Williams, and I think then Chet Holmgren. And then if we look at last year, obviously Isaiah Joe was someone that popped up in there, but that was just looking at this year's data. Any love for him?
Yes, honestly, and it's interesting. I mean, I don't know. We don't have a ton of on-court, off-court data with him yet, but I do agree he's a guy who you would think would be taking a lot more shots. It's going to be interesting to see how they defend against him. I usually don't rate Golden State's front-court defense that highly, but I definitely think Draymond's going to be throwing shoulders and elbows into him just to
Dirty little stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And it's not enough for me to get off of him, certainly, but I think he's kind of priced where he should be, and that's the issue, kind of similar as Giddey. I will have some shares of Chet, but I probably wouldn't have him in like a cash lineup or anything like that. He definitely feels like he has a wide range of outcomes in this type of matchup for sure. So I like Chet here. I think he's a high ceiling, but at the same time, I don't think he's entirely safe.
Yeah, it's just funny though. Like all the other seeming Thunder plays are pulling in a bunch more ownership, and then he's at 5%, and it's just like, you know. So we did have a question about Derek Jones Jr. He's pulling in as one of the better value plays tonight. Do we have any interest in him?
I mean, I would look at the ownership. If he's drawing ownership, I probably won't get to him too much. I know he's had a few decent games lately, but you got to remember those are without Kyrie. He's another guy who's going to lose some usage, so things need to go his way. He's okay, but probably not someone I'd be getting to in low risk contest. Definitely more of a boomer bust type of value play. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Like, I don't think we've really seen enough this year, obviously with Kyrie being out, but even last year, I don't know. It felt a little bit different than it does this year. So we need to see more with Kyrie on the court for this team before we start making those decisions.
Yeah, and I'm seeing 22% ownership on Derek Jones Jr. That seems a little bit crazy to me. Yeah, I mean, he does it all. He is a guy who rebounds and everything, but how many rebounds is he going to be pulling away from Jokic tonight? Probably not too many.
If we're just looking at the value rate and it's 15.7, you could get to someone like Quentin Grimes, who's only 2% owned. Like, I don't love that, but like that's a logical pivot if you are someone that just purely goes off of the ratings here, which that's fine if you do. Like, I'm not bad talking that, but I think that'd be the move. That's kind of how I like to use this too. We did update it here, guys. So I'm just gonna
refresh too online.
Yeah. So we'll just get into that again, and then we'll get into the center plays. Once again, if you guys have any questions, make sure to get those in. Smash the like button as well. But we're going to see here, Quentin Grimes is actually pulling in, has the best value. I'm curious, 27 projected, 28 projected minutes, then DiVincenzo, then Josh Hart. And all of them are pulling like a decent amount of ownership, except for Quentin Grimes. So definitely interesting there.
Yeah, Grimes is one of those guys, like, if he hits 2 threes in his first stint, he'll probably get you to value. Right. And if he doesn't, you're going to be tilting the entire night because he's stuck at 9 fantasy points. So I don't know.
He's Matt Ryan, honestly.
Yeah, very similar. Maybe not the same quality of shooter, but whenever you get minutes for cheap, that enough is reason to consider a player, especially if he's not going to be owned. But at the same time, I mean, when he's on the floor with Brunson and Randall, he's really not getting the looks. We haven't even seen a 20 fantasy point game out of him yet this season.
I think the play is DiVincenzo. I know we kind of do the sample build. I'm actually going to put him in there right now, just so I don't forget. And then we'll get into centers. But I do want to plug the Discord chat here real quick. So let me do that. So a lot of you guys in here probably already know this, but for those that don't, after the live stream, we go into the Occupy Fantasy Discord and do more of a one-on-one kind of answer you guys' questions there if you have them, but it's a little bit more straightforward. Like, here are the save plays, here are the GPP plays, and then if any slight breaking news comes in go ahead. Oh, so guys, if something like that happens during the Discord, we can just hit on that easier than during a video like this, where when news pops in, we kind of have to segue back to it. So Zach LaVine's out, though. Let's go.
I'm seeing conflicting reports. So the Nets beat writer just said he's out. Underdog just said he's in. I'm refreshing because I think he was just ruled out.
Yeah.
But this is obviously very important. Hold on, refreshing. Man, I should have just checked my phone, but let's see here. It's going slow because I'm streaming.
Yeah, I hear you.
the tension is building. He is in now. So I don't know. I just saw in Discord Brian Lewis, who is a Nets beat reporter, said he's out, and now Underdog saying he's in.
Didn't
So
didn't we see this already this year with Zach LaVine?
yeah, man, I don't know what's going on. I will say this. Let's definitely keep an eye on this one as we transition into centers. And my bad for cutting you off. I was like, if Levine's out, that changes the whole slate, though. So.
It's you were like a half a second too fast because I was literally just about to do that.
My bad, man. My bad.
So I'm looking at Fantasy Labs and Underdog right now on Twitter. They're both saying that he's in now. So yeah, it probably doesn't change much then.
Yeah, beat reporter got it wrong. Someone posted it in Discord, but it looks like he's in. So
yeah, okay, we're good to go. Almost fun. No, it's fun. Yeah. It's good. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get into centers here, guys. Very interesting spot, like it was kind of yesterday as well. Not as difficult, I would say. Yesterday, I think the move was Embiid and J-Val. We'll see what it is tonight. And we do have Brook Lopez pulling in as the best value, then Ayton, then Mitchell Robinson. So interesting there. We'll take a peek at the OF index, though. That's pulling in as Jokic, Giannis, Randall, Bam, Jaren Jackson, Ayton, and then Vooch. Anyone there?
I love Vooch tonight. Whenever you get Vooch against undersized front court, he usually goes off. No Claxton for the Nets. They're probably going to start Sharp, but he's not the biggest center. He's almost built more like a power forward. So I really do like Vooch here. 7,500 on DK feels way too cheap. I don't mind the 8,100 over on FanDuel. I think if you could fit Jokic, he's awesome here. Again, similar situation with him. Dallas's front court's banged up. No Maxi Kleber. They got rookies in there. No one's going to be able to slow him down. So, I'm going to be building, I think, my higher dollar stuff on DK tonight. For me, it's like 30, 40 single entries. I'm going to be going with Vooch and Jokic in the same lineup and then trying to jam value around it. I just love the matchups for those two.
Yeah, I agree. So, like, literally, you mentioned Vooch. Like, he just dominated against Dallas in a similar matchup, and now we got Jokic going against Dallas. Right. So, I like that. And just for what it's worth as well, like, a lot of the value or a lot of the ownership is at cheaper price tags. So, if you guys are someone that's eating the chalk, you can get to Jokic, who is kind of the unique play in the lineup at 8 or 7%, whatever slate you're playing on FanDuel or DraftKings. That's an easy way to get unique and also an easy way to get big ceiling. So I like that approach there.
Absolutely.
I do want to mention DeAndre Ayton, though. At 6.6, he's only pulling in 11% projected ownership. And I know I've talked him up like 4 straight slates now. Really was awesome on 2 of them. Really was terrible on other 2. But it really just comes down to his minutes. And we haven't projected at 30 minutes. And to me, that's where I'm like, okay, so I agree. It's Vooch, it's Jokic. But to me, it's also Ayton. And so it really just comes down to lineup construction to me. I think I would actually, I don't know. I'd like Vooch. I feel like he's super safe. But I think I would rather go Ayton than Vooch. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting the discount. I will bring up Robert Williams was out for a couple of those games and Ayton went off. But at the same time, with Scoot out, maybe he gets a little bit more usage here. So that kind of offsets. I do like him a lot. This is a lot at his price, though. But I will just kind of transition into Brook Lopez here. Yeah. You mentioned he's popping as one of the top value plays. Wide range of outcomes because he's on the floor with David. Giannis now, not always going to see a ton of usage, but he's going to be on the floor. He's probably going to push 30 minutes, and he's cheap and he's low owned. So he checks a lot of boxes as a tournament play. Again, not something you could trust. Would definitely get to all the other guys we mentioned at center ahead of him. But in tournaments, if you're not paying up at center, I do think Lopez makes some sense.
See, my issue is that it's weird. We've seen like the last year's version of the Bucks where Brook Lopez was kind of decently involved, and then we just see him be a ghost out there. It's just like I struggle to get to him as like that good of a value play. I would say that value rating that we're getting is more of a GPP rating rather than a like cash safe rating.
Yeah, and I hope I made that clear when I was saying it too, because he's not always going to get the usage, but if he hits a couple threes, I mean, he's already close, and then playing close to 30 minutes. There was a blowout last game against Toronto. He only had 16 minutes, but he's around a fantasy point per minute. So if he's going to play 30, he could get you around 30 points, which is right there at that 6x mark. Might help you get a pay up at guard or something like that if that's what you're looking for. But not safe. I can't say that.
Well, that's kind of the tough times with the DK value rating or FanDuel value rating. It's like it's sometimes you need to differentiate whether it's like a
Mhm.
safe or GPP, and I feel like that is strictly GPP. But I do want to get your thoughts on Daniel Gafford as well going against Miami. He's pulling in some ownership on DraftKings where he's 5.19% projected ownership, projected only to get 25 minutes, and I think that's the like clear distinction to me. He's a similar player to Mitchell Robinson, where if we have him projected to get like 30 or so minutes, then he's a fine play. If not, we're probably just staying away. What are your kind of thoughts there?
Yeah, I think he's fine. Kind of feel similar about him as I do Lopez. Maybe a little bit riskier, but also a little bit higher of a ceiling. So
Mhm.
again, definitely a high risk type play as we classify it. Large field tournament type play for sure. But 5,100 on DK, that does feel a little bit too cheap. And if this is a competitive game, he should probably be a big reason for that. So I don't mind him here.
Yeah. All right. So we got a couple of questions coming in, so we'll just go ahead and answer those. Is Jalen Williams a core play on DraftKings?
What's his price there? I know he is for me on FanDuel.
I believe he's cheaper on DraftKings.
Is he?
I don't know. I'd have to check again.
Oh yeah, he's 200 cheaper. Yeah, I think he is. I think he's arguably the safest OKC player point per dollar.
Yeah, I agree. And then let's see here. How do we feel the in-season tournament is going to affect starters' minutes? They uh, won't, right?
I mean, I don't think it will. I mean, if a game's competitive, usually the starters play a couple extra. If it's not competitive, it kind of depends on the coach, but they get pulled early. I think, I don't know, it really shouldn't change much. I don't think it's something we can factor in too much. Like, I know Giannis is a guy I guess we look at who hasn't been playing as many minutes as maybe we want him to. But yeah, I don't know. He probably plays his normal 30 here. Like, and I'd be surprised if he played more than that. But yeah, I don't know. I everything about this tournament, I just kind of want to ignore almost.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
It's so I think everyone knows that it's literally just for the NBA to get some regular season views. Like it's to gain some hype, probably to sell some merch, some jerseys,
Mhm.
get some hype around the court. It's just a media thing that they're doing or marketing thing that they're doing here. So
Yeah.
all in all, it should be about the same unless we see anything different. So
Yeah, yeah, and I know there is some incentive. Like the first rounds, like these group rounds are interesting. And again, we've never seen this before.
mhm.
Maybe it is some huge difference. I doubt it. But yeah, I mean, as we get into the next rounds, and like some of these younger teams that maybe don't have a chance in the playoffs, they have a lot of guys on mid contracts or rookie deals. They're going to want to compete and they're going to want to go for it. But I think in these early stages, it's really just tough to project any of that. And it's not like teams aren't trying to win on a nightly basis anyway.
I would almost honestly for this, and it's a little bit of a weird tangent, but to me, the incentive that they should give out is like if you're a team that makes the playoffs, you get a lottery pick. And like
Mm,
if you win the tournament, and then if you're a team that misses out in the playoffs, you just get an extra percentage or X amount. Like to me, that's more valuable than the money incentive. I don't know. That's just me
oh
though.
yeah, I mean for the team it would be,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
if you're a player on an expiring deal, are you really going to play higher so your team can get a draft pick? I
yeah.
guess that would be the issue with that.
I guess best of both worlds, you'd have a little bit of both, but
Yeah, money, players like money. I mean
yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah. So we got a question from Courtney Parker. How do we know if a value rating is a good rating? Just assume that it is a good rating for the most part. I mean, more times than not, it's going to be right. Our kind of job, I would say, is to kind of fish out ones that might be fishy, I guess. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if you're sorting by value on each site, it's all relative to the slate. Like, if you have two games, maybe the best value is only like 13 or 14 on either site. But on these bigger slates, you're going to get guys that are exceeding 15. But it's all relative. Like, look at the other players that are ranking around them. Like,
yep.
if we're asking if we like DiVincenzo, we see that Sharp and Lopez are similar values. We see Ayton and Jalen Williams there. They're all very chalky. So that tells us that DiVincenzo is probably a pretty good value play. So it's all relative to each slate, but just look at who's in those ranges, and you can sort that by position or just look at it overall for each site.
Yep. Yep. And then we got more. So thoughts on Xavier Tillman? Is he worth playing in the 9 p.m. game?
Yeah, I saw his price came down, I think, on both sites. Yeah, he's 5,900 on DK, 5,400 over on FanDuel. going to be squaring up with Ayton a lot, which obviously isn't ideal. But I mean, the price is down and he's cheap. And we were talking about Lopez earlier. We're talking about Gafford. A bit more expensive for Xavier Tillman, but I definitely think he's a higher floor than those other two for sure. So I'll definitely get to some Tillman here. I think he's fine.
Okay. And then we had thoughts on Giannis as a play.
I mean, another situation where the price is down. I mean, compared to the other studs, I think he is drawing more ownership on FanDuel, floating around 20%. Only 10-4 over there, which is like the price we usually see on LeBron next to AD, and then only 10-8 over on DK. So I like him. I think he's fine. Tough for me to call him a priority, especially as they're figuring out usage and everything over in the Bucks, but I think he's good. I just don't know that I want to prioritize him. Like, I don't feel great about him here.
Yeah.
But I do like that they're lowering the price, making him more playable.
Yeah. And then I believe we have a couple more, so let me just read those off. Why do we prefer Dante over Hart? I wouldn't say, for me, they're about the same, honestly.
Yeah. Well, Dante's cheaper, he's lower owned, and he's going to shoot more. So I guess those would be the reasons. Hart may be the higher floor of the two, but I don't know. DiVincenzo, he can run a little bit of point. He shoots the ball. He does everything. And they're going to play similar minutes, even if he's coming off the bench. And that also means less minutes with Randall and Brunson coming off the bench. So yeah, maybe Quickly gets hot and he takes up that usage with the second unit, but if not, it probably is DiVincenzo.
And then just one small thing for DraftKings, he's guard forward eligible, whereas Hart is on. No, Hart is both as well. Hart is both as well. No, never mind. Apologies there. No. He is small forward, power forward. Okay, I was looking at Quentin Grimes. So yeah, on DraftKings, Hart is small forward, power forward eligible. So that's why DiVincenzo's a little bit more appealing on DraftKings as well. To the points that you just had, Nick, as well. I completely agree there. I don't think we have any other questions, so we'll go ahead and get into kind of our closing thoughts here, and then we'll be heading over to the Discord in a little bit. So, closing thoughts. I already have Dante DiVincenzo in the build. Do we just eat the chalk for Portland and probably go Sharp as a play and Brogdon as a play?
Yeah, go ahead. I think those are two of the better chalk pieces.
Okay. Doesn't really matter where we put them. And I do think Kamara, I kind of like it. I don't want to go too crazy on Portland because I think I actually might want to get on Aiden. What are your kind of thoughts? I guess if we were to choose 4 players and I want to choose Aiden, which one would you take off? Would you take off the value Kamara, which would allow us to fit in maybe an extra stud, or would it be Sharp or Brogdon, or just 4 is good, max of 4 players?
If you want Aiden, it would be Kamara I'm taking off. Okay. Personally, I really like Vooch, but I like the Ayton play a lot as well. So
no, I think I'm going to go Vooch and Aiden. So let's just do that.
Yeah,
so
we can go both. That's a good call.
I'll do Aiden in the utility and then Vooch. So to me, guys, Aiden's a bet on the minutes. Vooch is a bet on the matchup being better than it appears on paper. And I think we are both saying like the Nets with Simmons there, like Vooch should be able to feast, right?
Yeah. Simmons isn't going to just be planted under the rim or anything. And again, whenever Vooch gets a guy smaller than him, he usually does really well. A guy bigger than him, we see 4 games. So he's been one of the easier centers to read over the past couple seasons.
Yeah. And then from there, is there anyone that you would want us to go out of our way to play here?
Jalen Williams is chalk. We play him at power forward or forward. I think he's solid.
Then Giddey as well, like just while we're there.
Yeah, lower owned than he should be. I think we agreed. So I'm happy to get to some Giddey.
I think he's a better play on FanDuel just for what's worth, as well as Jalen Brunson. I like him at this price tag. And then we have 3.1 left over, so maybe we couldn't fit Giddey in there.
3.1. Does anyone even exist that we could play? Let me take a look. No.
I'm gonna use the tool real quick here just to see who we would even go to at 3.1 as like the best play. And guys, this is kind of a unique feature there. We have the sliders there. What? Do I have a filter on here at all as well?
No, there's just nobody. I think it would be Ousmane Dieng for the Thunder. I don't even know if he gets minutes though.
12. Okay, so that makes sense. So I'd probably just take off Giddey then.
Yeah, take out Giddey. Maybe go Joe or the other guy. What's his name? The kid who might start.
Wallace.
So yeah, Wallace or Joe. Or Joe's small forward on DK.
Yeah. Could go Marcus Smart a little bit higher.
I like Smart.
Yeah. Don't mind that. Actually, let's just go to the model real quick. Who's the best value that we didn't put in there? Zaire Williams, Beasley, Grimes.
Any of them. I mean, we already have DiVincenzo. I think it's tough for him and Grimes to both
Yeah,
really
that's true.
get
That's a
there.
good
So
point.
maybe go either Zaire or Beasley. I'm happy with.
Yeah. I'm going to go Zaire just because I know Beasley had a good game last game and
Yeah,
Williams
higher
did
floor
not.
with Zaire probably.
Yeah. So he's in the forward spot. Then we have 6.9 left over at guard.
So Marcus Smart.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So just a first look build there. Obviously, don't need to play this, guys. Just it's the process of the slate. Now let's try it once though with with Jokic. So take out Aiden. We'll go with Jokic, and then obviously we're probably going down from Smart. I think we go Kamara then.
Yep. We still have to trim something.
Yeah, I would say Sharp.
Yeah, it's going to be Sharp.
Okay.
It's tough.
It is.
I mean, unless you pull Vooch too. So yeah, it's going to be really tough to fit what I wanted those two centers.
Yeah.
Um,
Obviously, that's the name of the game. There's always sacrifices, but we do remember a lot of the value that we had on the site was in that price range that we had for average salary here. So I feel kind of good with it. Could go Beasley, could go Zaire, Grimes, Joe. We'll go Joe for this one.
Yeah, I don't mind that.
And then 5.5 left over. I feel pretty good about just whatever. Hardaway, Carson Wallace, probably. I don't know. Like, it's fine. It's just meant to be a first look build. So someone's asking Zaire Williams or Grant Williams.
Zaire.
Yeah, I agree. It's because Kyrie's back, right?
Yeah, it's because Kyrie's back, and Grant's very dependent on his threes falling. If they don't, you're in trouble. Zaire at least rebounds, could maybe get you some blocks, steals, assists, etc.
Yeah. I'm just going to refresh here, see if we have any closing news, and then if not, we'll probably get out of here in a second here, guys.
I don't think there was any.
No. One thing that we didn't really touch on, and I think that's part of the reason why Williams would be a decent play and probably Smart, is Derrick Rose is out, and although he's not playing that much, like he is shooting the basketball a decent amount, so who's ever getting maybe that run with the second unit, and I think it probably will be one of those two. Maybe like 2 more minutes or something like that. Like nothing too crazy, but
yeah, that helps Zaire for sure. And the only news that came out is no minutes limit for Gafford, and Garland and Allen will have a minutes limit. How many minutes? We don't know. Could be 35. But yeah, they're listed as limited.
I hate that the
Coach
ball. LaMelo Ball. He's
limited.
35 minutes.
40 minutes.
Yeah. So someone's asking, why is Beasley ranking out so well? I think it's matchup based. I think it's minutes based, and it's the fact that he is not a bad role player for this roster. Like honestly, they've been so out of sorts thus far this season. It's literally been Giannis, Dame, and kind of it's Portis, and then kind of Beasley, and then kind of Lopez. I kind of get it. He shot 9 3-ball attempts last game. He was kind of hot shooting the basketball. You look at it against Atlanta,
Middleton's
10 3-balls.
Still limited too. That's the big thing. Middleton's still limited, so you're getting extra usage in minutes for Beasley as that third option, where Middleton would usually be the guy.
Yep. So it's not like I would say all the values that we have there, guys. None of them are locks, but they're all good enough. And the top two ones that we have here, Williams and Beasley, they're not pulling in that much ownership. So that's kind of why we like them a little bit more.
There you go.
All right. Any closing thoughts here?
No, man. I think it's a good slate. Hopefully no crazy news breaking late, but if there is, I'm sure we'll cover it in Discord.
Okay. All right. That's all for me, guys. So good luck tonight.
Good luck, everyone.